Welcome to Ordnance WarGaming. Today we're making this ruined building and we're making out of your old sprues. Subscribers, welcome back. If this is your first time here and you want to improve your wargame, make your tabletop battles more epic, then be sure to smash the subscribe button, ding the bell, and launch a noob to make sure that you never miss a video. Okay guys, so before we get started, I just have a small confession to make. While I was making this ruined building, I did something stupid. I forgot to put the windows in, and as a result, I had to use a different method to put them in after I'd already put the whole thing together, and it smelled absolutely terrible. So my advice is before you stick the card onto the sprue, as you'll see, is to cut out the squares for your windows and cut out the space in the sprue before you stick it all together, as it will make it easier and you won't have to use a hot knife to cut your windows into your piece of terrain. With that out of the way, let's get into what you need to make this piece of terrain. Okay guys, so here are all the things you're going to need to make this piece of terrain. You need some sprues to form the skeleton of the terrain. You need some card, which is going to put some skin on the terrain. You're going to need some knives to cut everything out. You need some glues to stick stuff together. I've got plastic glue here and super glue here. You're going to need some acrylic gap filler, which is going to be used to fill in any gaps as well as to connect our card to our sprues. You're going to need a pencil and ruler to mark all of it out as accurately as you possibly can. You're also going to need some paints to color up your terrain with, and an assortment of brushes to make sure that you can get the paint on there as quickly as possible. You're also going to want some spray paint in flat black so that we can base coat it as fast as possible, because this stuff dries a lot quicker than this stuff. And if you're silly like I was and you forget to put windows in, there's a remedy. You use a hot knife. I've got a screwdriver which I heat up using my heat gun, formerly known as the Trump. Okay guys, so the first thing you need to do is to prepare your sprue so it will make a nice frame for your building. As it's got all of these jaggedy bits coming off that were holding the bits of the model, you need to take all of those off so that it is nice and flat on both sides, as well as these little circles protruding up, as it will prevent the cardboard from having as much surface area to contact the sprue, and it won't stick as well. So to take them off, take your knife and slice down like so. Having something to push against so you're not trying to hold it, because you could easily cut yourself. Once you've got all of the little knobbly bits lopped off so you're left with something like this, if your knife slips and you break it like so, that's fine, because we'll just start by cutting down there to make it where the bits of the building have been blown away. So we'll do that. So basically, you just take your knife and you take a couple of chunks off of it here and there, like so, slicing through so you have kind of a few bits sticking out. A sharp knife will make this process a lot easier, and you know, I'm even gonna take a bit off up here. Like so. And you do that same sort of process with a whole bunch of sprues, and you'll be left with the frame for your building. So once you've got your sprues cut out and you've got a couple of them shaped to be roughly the shape you want for your ruins, you take some plastic glue or poly cement or whatever you use to join plastic together with, and you put some dots of it onto one edge of your sprue like so. And you take the sprue you want to join to that one and you join them together. I'm going to put these two at a 90-degree angle. They're going to form two of the walls of my ruin, and you just press them together like so and hold them until it's dry. Okay, so while you're letting the glue dry on your walls, you can take one of your other sprues and slice it in half, as you only need half of it per level. Cut it in half, and then the next thing you need to do is just cut it down so that it goes on a bit of an angle and is a bit jaggedy, so that it looks like a bit of the floor has fallen away from the ruin. Trim that there, and that. And that'll form the frame for the first floor of our ruin. And you use one of the bits that you cut off it for the upper floor of the ruin, because it's going to be smaller than the lower floor. Okay, so once your ruin walls are set enough to where you can pick it up and move it around without trying to fall apart on you, you're going to take the bottom floor and you're going to work out roughly what height you want it. I'm going to put mine about that height, and you look at all of the points where it contacts, and that's where you're going to apply your glue. So I'm going to take glue and you put a bit on there and there Then you take your first floor and you press it into place against all of those contact points. It's probably a good idea to just glue one side at a time, because your walls, you probably didn't get them at a perfect 90-degree angle, given that you would just have been eyeballing it, and you're going to have a gap over on one side. So if you glue one side first and then glue the other, you'll get a better result. Once you've got your bottom floor set in, you're going to add your top floor, and then you're going to use a couple of the little offcuts that are left over just to build up the top to make it so that it comes up to a nice spiky point at the top here. And then once you've done that, we'll be ready for skinning. Bam! Now we have the frame for our ruin all put together, and it's looking pretty good already. So we're going to pop that to the side, just let it dry a bit more. We're going to take our box, which we're going to use for our card, just to put the skin on this thing. We're going to unfold it like so. Now we're going to take our knife, and we just want the flat bit because we don't want any folds to be visible on the surface of the ruin. So we're just going to take our knife and slice along it, and that one's blunt, so we're going to grab another one. So we want to avoid tearing it up if possible, and just score along that edge like so. Then once we got that cut out, we can toss the rest of it away. Don't need that bit. So we're going to take our ruin, we're going to put our card in there, trying to get an edge as straight as possible. And we're just going to mark it about there. And we're also going to mark it about there, because we want some of these bits that are sticking out to stick out. So once you've got it marked, you cut it out roughly, about there, like so. Got your piece of card, and you can sit it on top like that, and you'll have something similar to that. So now we're going to make it so that it cuts along there. So you take it to the underside, you grab your pencil, and you just want to put some marks on it to mark out roughly where you want to be cutting, so that you have some of the bits of spruce sticking out. Then we're going to just cut, make it nice and jaggedy, like so. Pull it away, and you'll be left with something like that. Now you're going to want to take that piece of card and sit it back onto the rest of your sheet, and line it up there, and trace along the edge of it, because we're going to want 2 copies of each piece of card, so that we can put one on top of the frame and one on the bottom and sandwich them together so that it looks like a floor. It doesn't need to be perfect, it just needs to be close. And it is also a good idea to lock the blade of your knife in position so that it doesn't try to creep out. Do a quick test fit to make sure they fit in there nicely. Alright, once you've got your pieces of card cut out, you're going to take your acrylic filler, and then you're going to pump a bit of the filler onto the sprue that you're going to use as the frame for this floor of the building. You just kind of put it all over the place like that. You can grab your finger and spread it out a bit, like so. You also want to get a bit of filler over on those edges. Basically, you want to get it all over the thing so that you don't have any spots where your card lifts up. And don't worry if you overshoot it and put some filler where the card doesn't cover, you can always wipe it off once you've stuck the card down. So then you just take your card and just stick it into place, push it down like so. If there's any spots where it does try to lift up, just get yourself a paper clip or just a piece of bent wire and just clip it on there just to hold it down while it sets. Then you can go and wipe off any of the excess filler and put any clips, any other spots that it may be lifting up. You want to make sure that it is firmly stuck down to the sprue, otherwise you're going to run into problems with it lifting up later. Okay, so once you've got your bits of card cut out for one of your sides or both, you're going to want to start making it so that the inside card is able to move around the 2 levels. So to do that, you take your card and you sit it in there up against the wall frame as best as possible. You're going to grab your pencil and you're going to make a marking just below and just above like so that you know roughly the heights from the bottom that you need to make your cut, so that you have a slot right along here that'll allow you to push this piece of card into the level so that you can line the inner wall of your ruin. So once you've got your 2 marks there, you're going to want to take a ruler and find out how far from the bottom those 2 marks are. So mine is about 52.5 millimeters for the bottom mark, and the top mark is about 62 mil. So you're going to go along to the other end, and you're going to find, first of all, find your 62 mil mark. Just mark it off up the top. Then you find, what was it, 50 something, about 52. And you want to put some marks at about the end of where you think would be, and you're going to want to put some marks midway so you have 3 points to join to draw your line. So about there, go up to 62. Then just take your ruler and you try to match up your lines as best as you can. And you should have something like that. Then you need to just double check, so you get your ruin and you're going to sit your wall on the outside. You want to have a look, and my top mark is too high, so my bottom mark's also going to be too high. So I'm going to remark those and bring it down. So my top mark needs to be about there, and my bottom, actually no, this end's where they need to come down. So about there, about there. You take your ruler and you redraw those lines. Measure twice, cut once. So now we check again, bring it in, look, and yeah, we've gone the wrong way. Whoops. Of course, we need to be dropping these marks. Of course, if you can get this right the first time, it will be less confusing when we go to cut out this slot. And that looks pretty good there. So you just take your knife, once you've got it marked out where you're happy, it's best to take your ruler, find your marks, and so that you have a straight edge to cut along, and you just cut it out like so. Then you pull the piece away, and you should have a nice slit, which hopefully will line up when we slide our card in. So far, so good. Now that we've got it in that far, we need to do the same process for the top. Okay, so we're gonna have to cut the top piece off for this one to get it to work. So that bit will get stuck in there, like so. And then the bottom bit we will have slot right along to the back like so, and that'll be our bottom section. And then you just stick it down with the same process, and you repeat the same process over the other side, and you wrap the outside of it the same way we did here, and then you clip it all together and let it dry. Okay guys, so when it comes to sticking the inner part of this wall in, given that it is such a large piece, I find it's a lot easier to just cover the piece in your acrylic seal like this. You remove your clips so they don't get in the way, and then you take the section and you can just slot it down in here like so, trying to be as neat as possible. You don't want to get the acrylic sealer anywhere that you don't want it, and then just lower it down like so over the entire thing, and then you can stand it up and press it up against the sprue. Then you'll just do the same thing with the other side, pressing it on. Obviously you don't have a slit to deal with, and then you use your clips that you took off of these 2 bits, which should be set by this point, set enough that you can take the clips off, to hold it down while you prepare the card for the next side. Okay, so just as I was about to base coat this, I realized that I forgot to put windows in it, and what kind of a building, even a ruined building, doesn't have windows? So what I've done to try to remedy this is I've drawn a couple of squares just freehand on there. Might put another one in here, we'll just see how these turn out. And I'm just going to take my knife and cut those out. Then we'll take a hot knife to get rid of any plastic that's in the way from the frame. And then we'll cut out the other side of it, trying to line it up as best as possible. Okay, so I've got my hot knife nice and hot, just this little screwdriver. I've already cut one out. You can use an actual knife if you want, it doesn't really matter. This has more metal, so it's gonna hold more heat. And given this a cold day, that's gonna be absolutely necessary. So basically you just get the hot part of your knife, or screwdriver in this case, and you just press it into the plastic and it will melt it away. And you just go through until you're through the entire bit of plastic. Then you find the next bit and you cut through there. And you repeat that until a little plastic can come out. Then you can cut out the inside. Of course, you can skip this step if you put the windows in before sticking it together, because while your sprues are not stuck together and they're all out flat, it's easier to use your knife to cut these bits out. The only reason I'm using a hot knife to do it now is because I'm an idiot and forgot to put windows in. So put your windows in before you stick it together. Okay guys, so I've cut out all of the windows now. Now, just to clean them up a little bit, I'm gonna grab some more of the acrylic gap filler, and you just plop onto the bottom of each of them, like so. Then we're just gonna use our finger coming through there, and just smooth it out onto all of the edges, just to fill in all the gaps. Okay guys, so the last step before we base coat it is to just add this strip down here just to clean up that edge of the building. All I've done is just cut out a bit of cardboard and then stuck it on with some super glue. Also, make sure that you try to clean up with your finger the edges of your windows where you put the gap filler in, just to make them as neat as possible. It's okay if it's a little bit rough because it's a stone building. Bam! How good is that looking? It's all base coated now. I base coated it using a $3 can of flat black spray paint. There's still heaps left in that, so it didn't take much paint. The reason I used spray paint is because it's not foam, so I can spray paint it, and the spray paint dries a lot quicker than the other paint that I got from the hardware store. So now we are going to lightly brush over it with some gray, because I want mine to be stone. You can paint yours in whatever color you want, obviously, and you just lightly brush over it everywhere with the gray. Okay guys, so now we're gonna add some detail to it. Since we have all of these bits sticking out that are supposed to be like reinforcing bar going through the concrete, we're going to paint them in, what's this, lead belcher, and then some, I have no idea how to pronounce that, hashed copper, or whatever that is. It used to be like brazen brass, but it's that now. So to do this, we're just going to get some of our lead belcher, and you just paint it onto the bits that are going to be metal, which are all these bits in here, making sure that you let your gray dry first, because we don't want to get any of that gray into our expensive paint. And then you do that on all of them, and then we're going to dry brush over some of our copper. Okay guys, so once you've got the lead belcher applied and it's all dried, we're going to add our hashot copper. To do that, you just take it, you wipe most of it off on the rim of your pot. You don't need it quite to a dry brush, but just really light. And we're going to just brush that over all of the bits we painted in the lead belcher, just to give it a slight rusty effect to it that will look really nice and make it look like it's been out in the weather for quite some time. And then once you have finished doing that to all of the little sticky out rebar reinforcing bits, you're done, because I don't want to put a base on this one, as I want to be able to put it on as many different tables as possible, and it's fairly sturdy as it is, so it doesn't really need a base. You can put a base on it, and if you do, you can put bits of rubble and stuff down there where it's fallen out. Bam! And it's all done. I've added the copper and it's all rusted up really nicely, and how good is that looking now? And I think essentially it cost a couple of dollars of filler, and the rest of it was gonna go in the bin. So there you go guys, that's how you can make yourself a ruined building using the leftover bits from your vintage kits and a bit of acrylic filler. I reckon it's come out pretty good, given that it's made out of recycled materials that would have gone in the bin anyway. So you can save yourself some money, because a building of this size is going to cost, well, it's going to cost more if you buy it from Games Workshop or any other company that makes ruined buildings for miniature wargaming. As always guys, thanks for watching. If you liked this video, then be sure to smash the like button so that we know that you guys liked it, so that we can keep making stuff that you guys like. And if you have an idea for some terrain that you'd like to see us make, then chuck it in the comment section below and we'll see if we can make that happen for you. If you want to improve your wargame, make your tabletop battles more epic, then be sure to smash the subscribe button, ding the bell and launch a nuke so that you never miss out on a video.